So, I was struck by a bit of obvious. Good morning. Don't want to be rude. I was struck by a bit of obviousness. I'm trying to think about what's really important in 3D printing and what this type of home production can really enable, and more about what the what the game changer is, what the real personal life improvement is. I posted I tweeted a thing about this, like Arduino or SparkFun or Hackaday or one of those currently horrible websites posted something about like using an Arduino ultrasonic sensor to detect when your car is completely in the garage. And I was like, this is exactly the kind of thing that I was like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good idea. That would be neat to do. And then I'm like, but I just used a pool noodle and a piece of wood. And it requires no electricity, no effort, and it works forever. It's like there's almost no benefit. It's just like over-engineering, unnecessary complexity. So like I said, I'm trying to find this, like, these important changes, these important things that really help people, really enable people. And while I'm printing out my angled foregrip for my rifle, I was like, wait a minute, like, this is it. Like, gun stuff, like this is the biggest personal enabler, is the easy access to firearms. And for, in America, it's easier, but the people that are working on it, Defense Distributed, are working on stuff that's almost requires nothing to get started, like pipes. And that's, I mean, it's good and all. It's definitely enabling. It's just not the kind of empowering that I was trying to go for, I guess. It wasn't what I was thinking about. I'm more thinking about putting money back into people's pockets, but I guess keeping it there is kind of important too. But the potential for buying a parts kit for a High Point, which is, I think it was $89. I forget what it was. Now, it can't be that much. I think it was less. But then you 3D print the frame for the High Point, and it comes out to like $120 or something total. And the way it works, at least in America, is there's one part that is the firearm, and that's called the receiver. That's the serialized part. And all other parts, barring a few certain circumstances, all other parts are essentially non-firearms. So when you purchase a lower receiver for like an AR, you get a hunk of aluminum that's precision machine cut and drilled and tapped, and has a certain layout. And that certain layout is, for all intents, for all legal purposes, a firearm. So I had this, I had a joke I posted a while ago, because I had a hunk of metal that was an AR-15 lower, and at the time I was living in California, and I literally had to put a lock on it. So it doesn't have a barrel, it doesn't have a trigger, it doesn't have a hammer, it has no springs, it has no moving parts. But technically it's a firearm, and technically I have to put a lock on it. Too silly. But as far as, keeping money in your pocket, that's that literally keeps money in your pocket. If someone wants to take the money out of your pocket, then the answer is no. It's theft. Theft is something people don't recognize, is that theft is life by inches. It's something that you worked toward, unless obviously it was free to you for some reason. But if you work 20 hours to make the wages to afford a product or an item, and someone steals that item, they've not only stolen however much money you paid for it, they've also stolen 20 hours of your life. Further, if that was serving a particular purpose, like it was a pump that was getting water for your family, then hey, I don't like that's a completely different theft. Like people that think physical items are just things haven't really thought about it enough. So the potential for at least protecting your family, or at least having something, $150. This is something that, especially something like the Low Point, which uses an existing working, not great, kind of a joke firearm in America, but still, by all reviews at least, a functional firearm, a working, reliable firearm. Clunky and unwieldy and rough, but working. Take something like that and then makes it more accessible to anyone who wants to be able to print it out. And to be able to buy it in a shop is just I think they sell for $270 or $250 or something like that. So you're talking about saving over $100 in this purchase. And poor people are the people who suffer the most. The people in these nice rich towns that I drive through to get to work, or these rich communities, they're not racked with crime exactly. It's the underprivileged, it's the unfortunate. They're the people that get taken advantage of the most. So making this more accessible to them is better. Except in a few certain states, in the legalities in America, there's a few states that you can't do it, but generally you can make your own firearms for your own use, and I think in some states you have to serialize it. In some states it's not necessarily required, but in other states you're not allowed to make it yourself, or rather, if you complete it yourself, you have to report it, register it. California has a handgun registry, so if you create a handgun in the state of California, you're required by law to register it. Which means you serialize it and you submit, I created this firearm, it is described as this, it has this serial number, Troy 001. That's my serial number. So in most states, though, you just make your own firearms. It's not a big deal. And 3D printing one is no different. 3D printing guns is a bit of a meme. This is something that people are not really going to tell you, because it's almost a troll. It almost exactly is a troll. There is one firearm that is that's going to be released. One 3D printed firearm that's almost completely 3D printed, and uses standardized. It's almost a PA Luddy submachine gun. It's crazy. It's FGM-9, I think, and it's designed to be so that you don't have to buy parts kits. It's designed so that the pressure-bearing parts are that you can make your own pressure-bearing parts. Like, the problem becomes how do you make a rifled barrel, which is important for longer ranges. But in World War II, the Brits got away with a smoothbore Sten gun, and those were just fine. My understanding was they were able to produce those for like $3 at peak production with version Mark IV or whatever version they had, where they just kept reducing the amount of steel and manufacturing processes required. It was down to like $3 or $4 each unit cost them. So that's pretty amazing. But those went out without rifled barrels. The barrel was like 8 inches though, so it would run, obviously, and it would run like crazy. But it was dead simple and worked just fine at close enough ranges. But so this design is made to be a bit of a carbine, and uses electro ECM process to rifle the barrel. So you 3D print a mandrel and then you wire it up, and you essentially give it a negative charge on the barrel and a positive charge on the wire, and it basically, I think the chemical process is like a corrosion kind of, but it removes metal from the barrel in certain areas, and while you're doing it, you're running fluid through the barrel. So as the fluid is going through, the metal on the barrel is being attracted to the anode, and then the water kind of washes that metal out as it comes through. So the idea is that you create this, you're cutting using electricity and by using water to kind of push the metal away as it cuts. And the results are good, apparently. I mean, the dude posted, I think it was Ivan Troll. He posted some really nice barrels, and he has the links up for your own home ECM process, and that those parts for making that are 3D printable. Interestingly enough, you have to get a lot of hose fittings, and 3D printing is really good at making, hose adapters and stuff like that. Really good use for that. So that's pretty neat. The ability to have something that is, with a properly rifled barrel worn in. You probably have to run some copper through it the first few times just to kind of smooth out the bore, but I mean, that's a good seal. 9mm good out to, I mean, you can probably hit out to 200, but it's probably effective to 100. 100 yards it's pretty far. 100 yards, 100 meters, pretty far, especially for a personal weapon. So there were some other like 20, there's like little 22 Derringers and stuff like that. I don't know about those, but the idea of a personal weapon that you can have and defend yourself with, going beyond like I'll scratch you with my fingernails, makes a big difference. Generally, it's enough to stop any kind of attack, even if you don't have to use it. And the statistics bear that out. It's actually rather unlikely that, well, first of all, it's very unlikely that you will be involved in any type of firearm incident or personal self-defense incident, and it's even less likely, most of those instances are resolved without firing a shot, to the detriment of the statistics, actually, because they're generally not reported when that happens. So it's I don't know how I got onto this. So anyways, think about places like Hong Kong, and I don't know what to think about Hong Kong. There's, my gut thinks it's kind of weird, but assuming their objectives are noble and all that, there's a severe lack of creativity. It makes me wonder. I've said this before. Protests are an inherently civil act. You're engaging with, riot police are technically civil actors. You have something that you would say is a riot, and it is being broken up by riot police. Well, riot police are designed to do certain things that regular police are not quite designed to do. And it's a strange differentiation, because we see riot police fighting and punching and hitting people with sticks, but that's not what. This is a whole nother tangent. Protests are a civil act. Civil, as in they're polite. Protests are polite, and people don't realize that. And I think that might even be a right versus left thing. I don't know. It's said that the left has, the social left, this all varies. I don't know how many people I have outside of America. All the right left stuff is kind of backwards in other states, but just try to stick with me. It said that the left has levels of escalation, that they escalate slowly, and they reach a peak, and then the other side, the authoritarian side, has one level of escalation. So not okay. No reaction, no reaction, no reaction, maybe some reaction, and then boom, RWDS. So it could just be that the protesters are leftists. That just might be, they're airing their grievances, but also like maybe we'll throw some rocks and stuff. And I'm not there. Like, I've talked about this with the Predators vlag. How predators push lines. And that word, actually, predator, as if this wasn't already flagged. This video wasn't already flagged. That word predators is actually flagged in YouTube. So anything that you have gets deranked, depopulated. I don't know. It doesn't show up in search results. So clean up my hair. How predators push lines. It talks about this you don't have very many escalation points. Like it goes from 0 to 100. It might go from 0 to 25 to 100. It might go from 0 to 50 to 100, but it's going to jump to 100. Right, I gotta go, and this seems really meandering. So, comments in the comments if you want more information on this. This is a strange tangent.